We love the way we were loved as children. John Bowlby. Have you ever felt this? The person you love, the one who once promised to walk through life with you, suddenly disappears without a word. You text, you call, you try everything to reconnect, but the harder you try, the colder they become. And then you decide to stop. You go silent. And strangely enough, that's when they come back. Why is it that avoidants so often return after you apply the no contact rule? Why is it that your silence makes them miss you when all your efforts to hold on only push them further away? The answer lies deep within their attachment system. Avoidants aren't unfeeling. They are afraid of feeling too much. They live in paradox. On one hand, longing for an idealized love. On the other, terrified of true closeness. And so they build distance, walls, defenses, not to hurt you, but to protect themselves. What most people don't realize is this. When you stop reaching out, when you step back, their defense system stops being triggered. In that silence, they begin to remember the peak moments, the highlights, the best of your relationship. Slowly, a familiar yet confusing emotion surfaces. They miss you without even understanding why. This isn't a game of manipulation. It's the science of attachment, the clash between the fear of losing independence and the fear of losing love. And once you understand this, you'll stop blaming yourself. You'll see the truth clearly. You were never the problem their fear was. When we think about love, most of us picture emotions, compatibility, or specific behaviors in a relationship. What often goes unnoticed is that the way we love or avoid love is deeply rooted in our attachment style, which was shaped early in childhood. Researchers like John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth discovered that from our earliest interactions with caregivers, we learn how to connect and how to protect ourselves from emotional pain. Over time, these lessons form the unconscious map we carry into adult relationships. There are 4 main attachment styles: secure, anxious, dismissive avoidant, and fearful avoidant. Of these, only the secure style is truly healthy. The other 3 are shaped by core wounds, and it is these wounds that determine how we respond to closeness, conflict, and even breakups. The anxious type carries a deep fear of abandonment. They constantly need reassurance, interpreting even small signs of distance as rejection. The fearful avoidant is torn between both fears, the fear of losing love and the fear of losing freedom. This creates a chaotic push-pull dynamic. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And then there's the dismissive avoidant, whose core wound is unique: the fear of losing independence. This means that from a young age, they learned that closeness was dangerous. Perhaps they grew up in an environment where emotional needs were ignored, or intimacy was tied to control, criticism, or even harm. As adults, they carry the belief, if I let someone too close, I'll be trapped or hurt. This belief explains why. The more they are pursued, the more they withdraw. For them, intimacy feels like an invisible trap. The closer they get, the more control they fear losing. Their reflex is to build walls, create distance, or disappear altogether. Yet here lies the paradox. Inside, they are not emotionless. In fact, they long for love, not just any love, but an idealized, almost perfect relationship they've never found in real life. They dream of harmony and deep connection, but when love comes close, old wounds drag them backward. It is an endless internal tug of war, craving intimacy while fearing the loss of freedom. And unless we understand this core wound, anyone who loves them risks falling into the same painful cycle, trying harder to be close, only to find that every effort pushes the avoidant further away. We've just seen the core wound of the dismissive avoidant, the fear of losing independence. That is why the more they are pursued, the more they pull away. But to understand how this wound truly shapes their love life, we need to go 1 step further, into the inner paradox that defines their emotional world. On the outside, avoidance projects strength, self-reliance, and an air of not needing anyone. They often wear the armor of rationality. I'm fine. I don't need love to be happy. Yet the truth inside is very different. Their inner world is rich, often full of fantasy and daydreams. They can spend hours imagining a perfect relationship, an ideal partner. And here lies the paradox. They deeply long for love, but panic when real love comes too close. One of the clearest manifestations of this paradox is the concept of the phantom X. This is a phenomenon researchers in attachment theory have highlighted repeatedly. Avoidants often hold on to the memory of a past partner, idealizing them into a flawless figure that no one in the present can ever match. The phantom X works as a deactivation strategy, a way to switch off intimacy. When a current relationship begins to deepen, the avoidant unconsciously compares their partner to this ghost from the past. And of course, no one can measure up to a memory that has been selectively edited, keeping only the beautiful moments while erasing the conflicts and pain that were once real. The result? Their current partner is always cast as not good enough. They are silently and invisibly compared to an unattainable ideal. This comparison allows the avoidant to maintain their sense of safety. I just haven't found the right one yet. This person isn't it. I need to keep searching. But in truth, this isn't an objective assessment. It's a defense mechanism designed to protect them from the vulnerability of true closeness. The phantom X also creates a painful cycle. At the start of a new relationship, avoidants can feel excitement, even euphoria, as if they've finally found the perfect match. But once genuine closeness sets in, when the partner begins to expect deeper emotional sharing or commitment, the old wound resurfaces. And to escape that fear, they return to the safety of the phantom X. This doesn't feel like my past love. Maybe I chose wrong. For the partner of an avoidant, this experience is profoundly destabilizing. Even if they don't know about the phantom X, they sense the constant comparison. They feel like they're competing with an invisible standard, always falling short. This is why so many people describe being with an avoidant as close yet far. There is connection, but never enough. There is affection, but it's overshadowed by something unseen. What makes it more complicated is that if you ask an avoidant directly, they usually won't admit that this is a defense strategy. In their mind, the pursuit of the perfect partner feels genuine. They believe they just haven't found the one yet, that if they keep looking, they'll discover their dream love. But in reality, that perfect partner does not exist. It's simply a creation of a mind too afraid to embrace true intimacy. This is the heart of the paradox. Avoidants crave eternal love, yet build walls to ensure it never touches them. The phantom X becomes the perfect excuse, beautiful, untouchable, and safe. It allows them to hold on to the fantasy of love while avoiding the risks of real love. After understanding the inner paradox and the presence of the phantom X, we can see another repeating pattern in the love life of avoidants, the 8-stage cycle known as the avoidant death wheel. This isn't just a temporary phase, but almost a common denominator for how they enter and exit relationships. The cycle begins with stage 1, craving love. Avoidants, despite their cold exterior, still have moments of vulnerability. They dream of a perfect love, someone who can fill the emotional gaps they keep hidden. This is when their inner fantasy world becomes most alive. Then comes stage 2, the honeymoon phase. When they meet someone new, excitement bursts forth. Everything feels fresh, full of promise. They may truly believe they have finally found the one, as if their idealized dream has come true. But soon the wheel turns to stage 3, loss of interest. As familiarity sets in, the avoidant starts noticing flaws. Small details that once didn't matter now become excuses. She's too sensitive. He's too demanding. Or this person doesn't match the image I want. This is when their deactivation strategies are triggered. They begin building walls. This naturally leads to stage 4, thinking about leaving. The avoidant becomes distant, less open, less engaged. In their mind, the thought, I should walk away, grows stronger. For their partner, this is the most confusing stage. They feel the withdrawal, but don't know why. Next is stage 5, leaving. The avoidant officially exits, sometimes by breaking up, sometimes by ghosting, sometimes by inventing reasons to escape the bond. Yet paradoxically, the cycle continues with stage 6, excitement at regained independence. They feel relieved, even euphoric. The fear of entrapment is gone, and they enjoy freedom again, as if they can finally breathe. But this feeling doesn't last. Soon, stage 7. Loneliness and self-pity creeps in. They begin to feel empty, questioning themselves. Did I make a mistake? Why do I always feel so unfulfilled? This is when solitude knocks most heavily. And finally, the wheel closes with stage 8, returning to the craving for love. Their heart remembers the beauty of dreams once more, and they long again for the right one. And so the cycle repeats itself, round and round, like a wheel that never stops turning. What makes this dynamic even more complex is that anxious individuals also have their own cycle. And when an anxious person falls in love with an avoidant, a pairing that happens, very often the two cycles overlap, creating chaos. The more the anxious pursues and clings, the more the avoidant withdraws and builds walls. One side desperately seeks closeness, while the other fears it. This is why anxious avoidant relationships are often called the cycle of crisis. They don't just drain love, they reinforce each partner's core wounds. The anxious one feels they're never enough to be loved, while the avoidant becomes more convinced that closeness only leads to pain. And it's precisely this collision between the two wheels that makes understanding the avoidant death wheel so essential. Only by recognizing it can we step out of the loop and open a different path, the path of awareness and secure connection. If the avoidant death wheel shows us how they repeat the script of leaving and returning, then the no contact rule is the very interruption that can break this cycle. Normally, after a breakup, someone with an anxious attachment style will immediately fall into panic, texting, calling, trying to prove their love, or attempting to fix the relationship. Yet these very actions unintentionally triggered the avoidance defense system. They feel pressured, invaded, and the result is that they want to escape even further. However, when you apply the no contact rule, that is, cutting off all communication, and instead focusing on healing yourself, you are doing the opposite of what the avoidant expects. In silence, they are no longer forced to build walls, no longer chased by demands for closeness that they fear so much. And within that empty space, something fascinating happens. They begin to remember. The human brain has a natural tendency to select memories. We don't recall every moment of a relationship. Instead, we tend to hold on to the peak moments, the emotional highs and the feelings we had at the very end. This is known as the peak end rule. For avoidance, after enough time passes, the negative memories fade, making room for the most beautiful parts of the relationship. The laughter, the quiet evenings, the shared joy, all of these become the highlights in their mind. It's at this moment that another paradox emerges. When they are no longer triggered, they allow themselves to feel the bond they once denied. Not because they have completely changed, but because silence gives them a safe space in their own mind where they can remember you without feeling threatened. And this is why the no contact rule becomes such an effective strategy. It isn't a manipulative game, it's a pause that helps both sides step outside the cycle of defense and reaction. From here, however, we need to look even deeper. What is actually happening inside the avoidance body and brain when they get close, and why do they pull away after intimacy? To answer that, we have to explore the biological language of their system, the neurochemistry of sex. When it comes to the no contact rule, the most common question is, so how long should I stay silent? This is where we need to distinguish between a rigid formula and a flexible roadmap. Some experts suggest 90 days, comparing it to a probation period at a new job. Those 90 days give you space to reflect, to detach yourself from the emotional chaos of the breakup, and to allow your nervous system to regain stability. But in reality, not everyone needs the same number. A more flexible approach is the 45-day cycle. During the first 45 days, your entire focus is on yourself. Healing, rebuilding healthy routines, reconnecting with friends, rediscovering hobbies, and bringing your life back into balance. These aren't 45 days of waiting for them to come back. They are 45 days for you to return to yourself. Then, at the 45-day mark, you evaluate honestly. Ask yourself, do I still feel heavy, obsessed, or emotionally tied to them? If the answer is yes, then extend for another 45 days. If you feel genuinely calmer, no longer haunted by the past, Then you can consider the next step, whether it's continuing no contact to strengthen your peace, or cautiously opening up the possibility of reconnecting, but now from a place of wholeness rather than dependency. The most important truth many people forget is this: no contact is not about getting them back. It's about getting yourself back. It's about no longer being defined by fear of loss or trapped in the emotional spiral they left behind. And here lies the paradox. When you truly heal, when you no longer crave them as the antidote to your pain, that is often the very moment the avoidant starts to remember, to reminisce, and sometimes to return. And this brings us naturally to the next question. What is really happening inside the avoidant's brain and body that makes them both crave and fear intimacy? The answer lies in the language of hormones and neurochemistry. In the end, when you look back at the entire journey with a dismissive avoidant, you'll realize the focus was never just on them, it was always on you. They may remain stuck in their cycle of fear and longing, still idealizing love, but pulling away when it gets too close. But your healing journey doesn't depend on whether they come back or change. Healing is when you understand that you don't need to chase to prove your worth. You don't need to endure in the hope that love will fix them. You have the right to set boundaries, protect your peace, and choose to love yourself first. The beauty is this: when you grow emotionally, you free yourself from being the victim of the anxious, avoidant cycle. You begin to love with freedom, without clinging, and without fear. And that state of being is what truly attracts not only to them, but to any healthy relationship in your future. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means remembering without pain. It's when you can look back at the past and say, I learned something here. I found myself again. Oh, and if you are the avoidant listening to this, ask yourself, are you truly seeking freedom, or are you just running from your own heart? Because real love doesn't require you to give up freedom. It only asks that you have the courage to show up authentically, without defense, without needing to be perfect. Healing journey isn't about becoming enough for someone else. It's about becoming whole for yourself.